What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Make It Custom Unleashed. We've got a special video for you today. We are manufacturing our planishing hammers. We've got these in a 36-inch and a 24-inch. They take a lot of work to manufacture, and this is our second run of them. Partially sold out already, but there are a few left. Basically, what we've got to do is build this hammer. So there's actually quite a few steps involved into making it, which we are going to go over today. So we've got our tubes bent from the CNC bender. We've got all of our machine parts back from the machine shop, and we've plasma cut our own tabs on the back. There's just lots of little bits of prepping and lots of kind of like precise jigging and TIG welding and that sort of thing that Elio and I are going to get into today. So I hope you enjoy the video. Don't forget to like, click subscribe, hit notifications, and if you for some reason aren't on the other channel, check out Make It Custom. Going for a skid, bud! This episode, I'm going to Japan. We are in Australia. We're going on a little ride tomorrow. This place is insane.
A little more subtle, but very custom.
I'm having fun.
Me too.
So one of the first steps, Elio's working on that right now, is we are prepping these tubes. So the tubes all come kind of oily from the bender, and this is DOM tubing that's drawn over mandrel. It means that there's no seam on the inside, no weld seam. So what we have to do first is we degrease all the tubes, then we use a what they call a rail mate. This thing actually can go around a tube and prep the tube, make it nice and sanded. So that's what we're doing. We've got the 24-inch hoops, the lowers, those are the 36s. We've got a little jig here that we can cut them to size. So I've got this piece that I can make my mark and cut those so that those are the right size. This here is the jig. It actually accepts the 24-inch and the 36-inch lower hoop on this side. And it won't spin right around right now, but this is the other side, so it accepts 24, which would normally be bolted on here, and then the 36 here, which holds onto the hammer head and keeps it aligned with our pivot. These two holes are also the different holes for the plates, so the shorter ones are the 24-inch, and the longer ones are the 36-inch. So yeah, that's a jig that I made on the last run. We're going to reuse it for this run. We possibly will make a new jig for the next run because we've got a couple of slight modifications that might be coming as well. We're just gonna bang these out so that we keep our happy customers. Prep tubes, weld clamps, drill pivot plates, tap laser pieces, weld lower arms, normalized lower arms. That will be interesting, I'll show you that. If you don't know what that means, it's a crucial part in our planishing hammer manufacturing. Re-prep lowers because normalizing uses a bunch of heat. You wanna make them shiny again. Weld uppers, and then final weld in the line. So anyway, let's get going. Elio's killing it. Look at all this stuff. He's made a little jig here to cut these things. They were actually supposed to be cut to size. I'm not saying who didn't cut them to size. You know who you are. He's cutting those down. I've made these clamps up. We've got a dozen of the clamps. Next up for me is I've got to just prep these pieces. These come off the plasma cutter. They're actually quite clean. Like this is the back side. But I just want to get these little bits off of it and then drill these holes accurately. We undersize the holes so that we can drill them out and then they're tight tolerance. And then we're gonna start welding them up. Whenever you heat something up like that, the impurities come to the surface in the form of mill scale. That's like the difference between hot rolled and cold rolled steel. If you ever see that, like this material is hot rolled, you see that dark stuff, mill scale. So we heat this up, it brings the impurities to the surface, mill scale. And so I just give that a quick hit with the square wheel, and then we'll use the belt sander tool on it again to get the finish once it cools down. But that's all I do, is I just heat it up like that, and then we can pop this thing under the jig. Okay, so just let me explain the jig for a second here. You've seen me build kind of both lower pieces now. So this side of the jig is for the lower, this side of the jig is for the upper. We've got the two different bolt holes here. I've already kind of gone over that, but what I really wanted to explain was why the jig is so important. So why is it so important? It's because the distance between this hinge and this end is a accurate measurement. And what's not accurate is tube bending. So even though we get these CNC bent, there are variables that are within the tube itself. That is the composition of the tube, what materials were melted down to make that material. Like, steel is not pure. It's made up of a bunch of different elements. And in the process of making steel, there are slight variables. So a machine that could be perfect, that is supposed to repeat bends perfectly, there could be a variable within the spring back, meaning that it bends the tube and how much does it spring back after it lets go of its tension that it was forcing the tube into the die with. And that spring back could be a little bit more or a little bit less or whatever, because the steel itself might have just very minute different composition in that bend versus the next run of steel or the next length of steel. Like, we're talking about hundreds of feet over these 50 tubes that we're doing. We've got hundreds of feet of tubing that are going through multiple bends. So anyway, that's where the variables come from. So what this jig is doing is it's holding this end and this end in an exact location. After you finish welding and putting all that heat into it, now you've introduced more variables. The shrinkage from welding, the heat, moving things, growing things, expanding, contracting. When I'm manufacturing these, I heat up this spot here. I learned after the fact, after I figured this out on the last run, that that's a process that is called normalizing. And I kind of knew of it because I'll tell you a quick backstory. I'll try not to make this too long. I remember back in the day watching Jesse James build this bike called Ginsu, and it was a stainless framed motorcycle, beautiful tanks. It was like red and polished stainless is the look of the bike. You can look it up. Very cool bike. Anyway, when he was building the frame for that bike, he had everything jigged up. And he had the backbone and the two down tubes coming to the neck that was in the jig. And that entire chassis had just got welded. So what he did, the final thing that he did, was he heated up where all three of those tubes converged just before the neck. He heated up chunks of that material, like maybe an inch or two, on three different tubes, the backbone and the two down tubes, near the neck. Heating that up to red hot, let the tension release out of those tubes, and it normalized. And then when he unbolted it from the jig, it came out like with no tension. And if you've ever worked with a jig and welding, things end up going under tension. They pull, and like welds shrink. That's what they do. We've talked about on the channel lots. It happens with structural material as well. So normalizing is something that, like the first run of these hammers that I built, I was actually very concerned because there was differences in the widths of these points by up to 1/4 inch over the many tubes that I had ordered. How is this even gonna work? I'm gonna pop all these out and they're gonna all misalign and we're gonna be hooped. So I remembered watching Jesse James do that. I did that here. I tried it and it worked. Like, all these things end up coming out of this jig like perfect, like just like right out. So somebody who subscribes to the channel commented and told me, hey, that's called normalizing, and this is a process that people use in manufacturing and all this kind of stuff. And I went, oh wow, like that's cool that, that's a thing and it's known. I didn't know, but I kind of found out because of a memory of, watching Jesse build bikes. It's kind of nuts. That's what I'm doing. I'm just taking my time TIG welding. I'm tacking 4 points here, 4 points here. I'm welding the pieces that are not on the sides first. In my head, welding the ends of something along this line can only pull in or out, and you weld the side and it might want to pull this way. So I always weld these first so that if the sides do pull, then it's not like it's going to be fighting the weld that's already there. Whether or not that even matters, I always kind of try and think about welding stresses and the effects of it, and incorporate it into the pattern at which I weld. I've got 2 more of these 36-inch lowers to weld up, and then we're done all the lowers and I can start on the uppers. Okay, so this is the jig flipped over. Very simple, same deal. Bolt that piece in, drop this piece in. The clamps that we made, they just fit on. I actually just slip them on with a screwdriver. They slip onto the jig like this, bottom out. This coped piece fits beautifully, sits right on a little ledge down there, holds it nice and perfect. Pop this out, and then I'll just kind of have a look and make sure that this is aligned straight. This piece gets put on afterwards because there's just a weld directly below it. This tab comes onto the hinge a little bit. What I'll do is I'll just tack all 4 sides, get all this welded up, and then the final piece, put that one on. I found that this particular piece, I don't do the normalizing, like it really doesn't move. But what I do like to do now is actually get this end welded on while there's an alignment tool inside of it. So I pop everything off, and then just each one, I drop the alignment tool into the lower and do the final weld right there. All right, well, that's that for the manufacturing of these little hammers. There's a lot of little steps to making them as good as I can make them. And yeah, they seem to work really well. And some of you have bought them already. Some of you are waiting for them. These ones going out right now, so I appreciate your patience. And we do have enough to make a whole bunch of these. I think we have enough for 40 more. Whether they be 24-inch or 36-inch, your choice. JapAndsCustoms.com if you're interested in that. We've got linear stretch tooling coming for them. That's why there's the cross pin put in here, is because we've got linear stretch tooling coming. You just drop a pin in, super easy to throw that in. We've got swivel tooling. That's something I really love. Nice S7 hardened swivel tooling setup for it. And really proud of these little machines, and I hope you guys like them. And the people that are waiting for these, they're coming, and really appreciate your patience. So hope you enjoyed this video. And if you got any questions or comments, throw them down there. Thank you very much. We'll catch you on the next one. Don't forget to like, click subscribe, hit notifications. See you next time.